All right, welcome to Resilient Voices and Beyond. I'm excited to have another episode here for you guys. I have a very special guest. I've been able to, read his book and see him speak a couple times and just, follow him throughout the years and so forth. So I'm excited for him to be here. I believe this is episode 29. 29 or 30. Don't quote me on that. It's just, they just flowing. But I'm excited. And without further ado, I'm gonna have him introduce himself.
How's everybody doing? My name is Mario Mclean. A little bit about myself. I'll start with, I guess, high school. Graduated from Cass Tech back in 2011. Shout out to all my CT alums out there. From there, I went on to Michigan State, where I graduated back in 2015. Started my first career with Frito-Lay as a district sales manager. Did that for about 4.5 years. During that time frame, I went back to school while working full time to get my MBA at Northwood University. Finished that up back in 2019. Then from there, transitioned careers and went to work at Aldi as a district manager. Did that for about 1.5 years, and currently I am at Dollar General as a district manager. So I've had quite a few jobs in corporate America, mainly in multi-unit management. So it's a little bit about myself.
Definitely. I typically ask this question a lot and I get a different response because, as well as I do, being a foster care alumni, we all have different experiences and they're unique to our own environment and situations. So with that being said, I know a little bit from listening to, you do a couple of public speaking events and stuff like that, but the audience, may not, this may be a first encounter with you. So if you can give a little bit of a background of what did it look like you going into care and what was that experience like um, leading up to high school and graduating and getting to that transition age?
Yeah, so for me, my experience was, I wouldn't say unique because I think when you're talking to anybody in foster care, everybody will probably label their experience being unique. But for me, my experience started out back when I was 6 years old. So I was relatively young when I went into the system. So at that time, I really didn't know, much what was going on. The only thing that I did know was that was not the trajectory I wanted my life to go in. And so I made it a point to really hone in and focus on my education because I saw that at the time, even given the young age that I was, I realized that would be my only outlet. I went into foster care because both my mom and my dad they suffered with drug and substance abuse, and my siblings. So I have 3 sisters and 2 brothers. During that time when we went into care, which was back in the year 2000, so about 22 years ago, I feel pretty old saying that. So at that time, only 2 of my sisters were at the age where we could go into care. So I went into it with 2 of my 3 sisters, and we obviously got split up. They were able to kind of go into an all-girls home where they were together, but I was by myself, and that was an experience where I was like, man, I really felt like I didn't have any, support system at the time. I remember my first few nights, I literally just cried like the whole time. I didn't know what was going on. Yeah, I cried so much. I know my foster mom was about to like get rid of me type of thing. But at one point, my sister was able to come stay with me during my first foster care home, and then at one point, my second home that I transitioned to, we all stayed together for a period of time. So that was pretty cool. I had I was fortunate enough to only throughout my time being in care, I was there for about 5 years, and I only stayed in 2 foster homes, which I know some people I know stayed in over 100 homes over their time in the system. So that aspect I really, I guess, enjoyed because it was able to be some level of consistency, which I think is very important for someone in the foster care system. But I would not take anything back if I can do it all over again, just because I feel as if foster care taught me the spirit of self-motivation, and it really gave me the drive just to continue to, keep breaking barriers, because, when you're in the foster care system, and I was listening to one of your podcasts earlier, and you kind of had said it, you almost got to work twice as hard, right? Because you kind of got to, you want to feel like you can compete in the world, because, a lot of people, they grow up with a lot more resources than we do. And just even taking that a step further, as African Americans, and even as an African American male, right? We all,
Definitely.
it's like I have to go, 3 times as hard. And so I definitely attribute that to my experience in foster care. And I definitely think that it made me the person that I am today. So.
Definitely. So, you mentioned a lot of different things in there, so my mind is kind of spinning. Actually, my sister went to Cass Tech.
Nice.
She graduated from there. But wow. So, I'm gonna ask you a little bit about this further on in the podcast, but I think it's relevant for right now. You kind of spoke to a mindset shift at a young age, at a young age, and that speaks to the mentality at that time that you had. What do you think contributed to the mentality of I gotta figure this out. I gotta make it. After all that was going on, because you say you entered around 6, so you're at an age of kind of knowing a little bit about your environment. Things kind of made imprints that were noticeable. So what did that look like for yourself?
Yeah, for me, I'm big on mindset. I honestly believe that anything that you want to do, you can do it, but it starts with the right mind. And so I've always been wired like that. I really don't know, what it was. I just always had, like, I am a big thinker, right? Like my family would tell you, I always had like these huge goals or whatever, but I'm also the type of person that actually achieves them. So I pride myself on achievement. But for me, really, it was just a matter of knowing that I wanted to be, I guess at the time, just rich, and what I wanted, everything that I didn't have at that time, if that makes sense.
Right.
So I think really just looking at the negatives that was going on and be able to, put a spin to it, and really look at the positive outlook and saying, hey, this is just where I'm starting. It's not the end goal. And so again, it's crazy to think that as a 6-year-old, I had that mindset, but it was just something that was really natural to me. Like, I think it was just, I guess my gift from God. But I mean, it's nothing special. It literally was just a mindset that I had at that time. And I just continued to, push myself day by day. And at the period that I'm in right now, just to be able to kind of look back and see, like, man, I really have overcame a lot of adversity. And just really, I'm the type of person, I'm always in the future. I never really take a time to kind of sit and think in a moment, right? And when I do that, it really makes me feel, accomplished to an extent. So.
Definitely. Um, wow. And that's just, I know you said it's nothing major, but that's something to attest to. That speaks to a strength that was inside you that was there. You can say it's a spiritual gift or what have you. Me as a Christian, I'm gonna say it's a spiritual gift. But it's been something that has gotten you through, it seems like. And that is amazing. One thing I did want to ask, so you said you experienced 2 foster homes. So were you fostered or were you adopted eventually? What did that look like?
Yeah, so great question. So I was reunited with my biological dad. He was able to get himself cleaned, and was able to get both my sisters out of the system at that time, 5 years later. And we all pretty much stayed in like low income housing. He really wasn't at a point, even, getting us out of the system, to be able to financially take care of us. But, after not being around your biological parents or family, it just felt good, what I'm saying, to not have to rely on the system, and only, can see them one time a week for a few hours. But there still was, opportunity as far as the support that I felt I needed even after care. But during my time in foster care, like I mentioned, I stayed in 2 homes, but also bounced around even before and towards the end. Like I think I've stayed with at least every auntie that I had, right? Just literally bounced around. So although I was technically in 2 foster homes, I did a lot of bouncing around from, just families as we tried to get, situated and out of the system totally.
Okay. I definitely can relate to that, in my own experience. I like before going into the system myself, and even like in the midst of transitioning between juvenile and foster care, um, there's like a kind of network that people don't speak about. Like we always speak about, like, okay, being in the system, all right, I was in this home, but I also was bouncing around from family members to family members. And, they, trying to figure out like who gonna take care, who, and stuff like that. And unfortunately, it didn't end great for myself, but sometimes it works. And one of my, I believe, podcasts I just released recently, the young lady Erica Hickey spoke to, like, she did a trip to Europe, and she was trying to figure out what those foster systems look like, and then she said most of them answered like, you just go to your aunt, you don't go to the foster, you just go, stuff like that. And I don't think we speak enough about that, so thank you for sharing that piece. Family, I think, is eventually our saving grace to this whole idea of prevention. We just have to figure out how to help and support those families to be able to be stable, secure, economically, mental health wise, and with insurance to be able to provide for the kid. Once we figure out those, I would like to say minute, but they're not really minute because they cost money and everything like that. Figure out those things, we can keep a lot of people with their families. But unfortunately, um, I'm pretty sure you've seen this and know about this. When you deal with certain situations, and I will use the scenario of parents that may be addicted to a substance or something like that. When you deal with parents that may have be addicted to a substance, most times they just cut you off from their other family. So when you're looking for other family members, when they realize, oh, that's such and such, nah, I'm good, and that's nothing to test to the kid though. That's not the kid's fault. But that's my little rant. That's my little tangent and so forth. But I guess kind of moving forward into that future, so you back home or back with family and so forth. How did you get to college? How did you end up that experience in high school? Like what barriers did you face? Or did all well, no, this is kind of like a crazy question. I'm sure they did, but did all the barriers kind of seemingly like, okay, I'm out, I'm back with pops or so, or back with family at least. So I'm cool. Did they kind of slow down? Did they stop, or did they just look different? What did that look like?
Yeah, so when I got out of the system, I was 12 years old. So I just had started middle school, if I recall correctly. So, during that time, I fell in love with the game of basketball. So I do recall, making a school basketball team and even playing AU. And I recall, my dad not being able to financially support, the travel and how costly that was. And even, just the clothes that I had wasn't, that's a big thing when you're in middle school. You can wear free dress and you wanna fit in. And so I remember all those moments like, man, I really wish I just had, enough money or to do the things that I wanted to do. But luckily, I really believe too, you meet people at the right times in your life. So I was lucky enough, like my basketball coaches at the time, they would either sponsor me and pay for those things. And that really made me feel good. And when I transitioned to CAS, because you have to take a test to get into, you have to take a test. So when I got accepted in CAS, I really didn't even know much about CAS, to be honest. I wanted to go to King High School because my English teacher in middle school had became a teacher there. So I remember having that as my first option. But anyway, I went to CAS. And because it's a college preparatory school, a lot of the courses were rigorous. You're around a lot of people who are driven. And for someone like myself, who kind of had that spirit of that drive, I really felt as if I fit in, right? And I was able to, again, make sure that I stayed on top of my game and top of my education. And as far as going to college, one of my business classes that I had, it was a requirement. We had a professor who had us apply to 50 different scholarships and at least 5 colleges. And I got accepted into all but one. And Michigan State was one of them. And, I really didn't get that much financial aid. But, I didn't know how I was going to college, but I knew I was going to college because I just knew that, again, that was the goal at the end of the day. And so when I went to Michigan State, I had to take out so many loans. And one thing that I really hate about my foster care experience, I really don't have many negatives, but the one thing that I feel really impacted me was the fact that I got out at 12, where a lot of the scholarships have to be 14. And so I just missed that window by 2 years. And again, my dad wasn't in that financial space to be able to pay for it, but that I felt it took away the fact that I still spent 5 years of my life in the system, but couldn't reap any of the benefits. And so even to this day, I'm in a lot of student loan debt that I think could have been avoided, had I been able to get, or even was aware of a lot of the funding. I think that was an opportunity that I missed out, that I really, it really still to this day, I'm like, man, I wish I could have just stayed in about 2 more years to get that free funding. But that's kind of a little bit about my journey of how I got to college. And then I'll kind of let you take the floor back. So.
Definitely. So like Renaissance wasn't on that plate for you.
That was the enemy. I think my order of schools, I had King, University Prep. Actually, Renaissance was number 3 and Cass was number 4. I recall it. And I got into Cass. So
definitely. I remember those tests to get in, and it's just for me, I wasn't a student that I didn't see school as important at that time. I was trying to make it through life and survive. But I like a lot of people I knew like, yeah, I gotta get this test done. I'm because like this is my way out and stuff. I wasn't there yet. But that's awesome. But I love that you're speaking to those experiences that ring true. Like and you're kind of bringing it to a different side, to my podcast because I've interviewed people that aged out, emancipated, and different story, but not a reunification. And I think that's very unique because unless I haven't hit it yet, it was a successful reunification.
Yeah.
You didn't re-enter into the foster care system after being reunified.
Correct.
There was a couple bumps, but that's what speaks to one of the biggest things I advocate about. And what I was saying before, the prevention is okay. Now we have the kids back, but also like even with one job, that's hard.
Exactly.
So how can we support those parents? And just keeping them there. We know they good. We know they're doing what they got to do. But a lot of times, because parents can't financially support or can't provide the status quo means, the kids get labeled as neglect and get in care. And a lot of time, and growing up in Detroit, you see that a lot.
Exactly.
Because it seems like everybody got the same story. We try to either make it out or be on the streets. So that's my little spill about that. So now we're navigating to adulthood. Went to college. Got through that, by grace. and getting out to the working world, what did that look like for yourself?
Yes, so for me, I missed a few important topics I think are important to share. So when I was at Cass, that's where I met my now wife. So I married my high school sweetheart. We're going on about 13 years here in June. But who's counting? Thank you. And be 5 years married in October. So That was a great experience for me, you know, being able to marry my high school sweetheart. And also, one thing that I think is important when you get out of the system, even when you're talking about that reunification, is I missed 5 years away from my biological parents, went off to college, that's 4 years, right? So I missed about 9 years away from my family. But during that time, you know, I was able to build a new family with my wife's family. And so I think that was something that I hold near and dear to my heart as far as them being able to kind of take me in under their wings. And we do have two young kids right now, a 3-year-old son, Isaiah, and a 1-year-old daughter, Malia. But anyway, so I kind of transitioned to getting out in the working world. So for me, my goal when I was in college was to get in and get out, right? Like that's why I had to stay focused. I'm like, I'm 4 and done, and I'm about to hit the real world, and I need to start making some money and take care and do all the things that I wanted to do. So when I started at Frito-Lay, I had a great opportunity in front of me. I was 21 going on 22, and I was managing 12 route sales drivers at the time. My district that I was covering was mainly in Detroit and like Southwest Detroit or Southwest Michigan or what have you. And I was overseeing about an $8 million district, right? So a lot of responsibility out the gate, but it really, you know, it gave me the opportunity to, you know, really showcase everything that I learned in college and be able to put it into the real world. And I'm very grateful for my experience at Frito-Lay, and just you know, just kind of being able to look up and say, you know, hey, I made it, right? A lot of people didn't make it where I come from. You know, you don't see a lot of people of color in corporate America. And so it's still, even to this day, as I continue to grow in the corporate world, you're always battling with, man, people don't look like me. Am I meant to be here? Do I feel like I have what it takes to fit in? And so for me, the way I, you know, evaluate that is, you know, I always think, hey, maybe I'm either special or it was meant to be. But it's still something that I think you really every day have to wake up and look yourself in the mirror and just really tell yourself like, yeah, you're good enough. You have what it takes. People are going to look at you different. But that's something that in corporate, I battle with on a day-to-day basis. It is being, you know, the one or a few of color, and that's something I think a lot of companies need to really figure out. And I know they talk about, you know, diversity, equity, and inclusion, but you know, it's like, what happens after Black History Month is over, right? Like, what does that look like? But that's neither here nor there. But just kind of wanted to call that out. So that's kind of a little bit about, you know, what my initial transition looked like coming out of college and being on my own.
Definitely, definitely. Forgive me, but I'm gonna bounce back because you mentioned something, and I wanted to ask a question about it. Then we're gonna come back to right here. You know, your what work and everything. Having been in care, because I've asked this to a couple other people, you know, who are parents.
Mm-hmm.
Having been in care, having been a Black male, and coming upon fatherhood, what was that like thought process like? You know, having being in care, having had parents who went through some struggles, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and so forth. Now you're at the peak of parenthood. You about to embark on this. You know, what was your thought process?
Yeah, that's a great question. For me, man, it may sound crazy, but when I was young, I'm like, I cannot wait to have kids to see how hard it was for, you know, my parents to, you know, pretty much not be able to support me. And so that was something that I was looking forward to, right? Like even leading up into getting married, a lot of people say, hey, you know what you looking forward to the most after marriage? I said having a family. Like that was the first thing that was top of mind. And we had my first son less than a year after we got married. So I can kind of tell you like the seriousness that I had on that. But for me, it was very important. Like that was a very important moment because it gave me the opportunity to now understand that I could not fail, right? It gave me the opportunity to also lead by example. And so even with having a son, you know, I know, you know, what he's going to experience as a Black man in America, and I've lived through it, right? And so my job is to give my kids, you know, what I wanted growing up. And so I think it's like I think parenthood, like nobody knows, nobody teaches you. You can read so many books about how to become a parent, but you really don't know what to do until you're doing. It's like on the job training, right?
Right.
But again, like we talk about that mindset, I had the mindset that, hey, this is what I wanted.
Mhm.
It's a lot of us. You have to be very selfless as a parent. And I
Mhm.
think just looking back, with my parents, that it's very selfish of them to, when you're dealing with a substance abuse, when you think about it, you're battling with, hey, should I focus on myself, should I focus on the kids? And obviously drug is something that once you kind of get into it, it takes over you, you're not thinking for yourself.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, I can honestly say, hey, I'll put everything I need to do on hold to make sure my kids are they have what they need, and then I'll pick back up, that's mature for me to say that, right? A lot of
Mhm.
people may not be at that phase, right? A lot of people may have kids at the wrong time, and they still battle with, hey, I want to do this on my own, or I want to do this for myself, but I also have kids. So how do I balance that? For me, I think being a parent was an easy transition because I had already seen what I didn't want what I didn't want. And it
Mhm.
was very easy for me just to, do the exact opposite, have a positive mindset, and also think that being married helped a lot as well, because not only did I have kids, I was married, right? So now I understood that my actions impact two other people, now three other people. And so I have to move a little bit different, but I think being married helps you be a lot more disciplined, which I think helps a lot, especially being a Black male. So.
Definitely. You mentioned, you dropped a lot of nuggets there, and you spoke to a lot of things which I'm hearing, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. Um, you develop values,
Mhm.
and you set boundaries and limit yourself. Like you like, okay, this is what was presented to me as a kid, and even societal. This is what is presented to me. Now that is not what I want to be. So let me create a boundary there. So
Mhm.
and these are the things that I'm going to hold true, because this is something that I want. So if it's something that I want, and something that is here now, it's here now. I have to step up to the plate, and that's something that I resonate with all too well. And just realizing that, nobody else is going to make those decisions for me, and one of the quotes, and people may take this differently, one of the quotes I live by and stand by is being the change that I want to see in the world,
Mhm.
not waiting for hope, but being that hope, myself and stuff like that. And one of the things, and you mentioned, it was years ago, I remember you came to speak to Michigan Teen Conference, at, I believe it was Eastern, or
Easton, yep.
Eastern, yeah,
Mhm.
um, and I remember you talked about, that interview, every day being
Mhm.
an interview, and that resonated with me because at that time I was finishing up school, I was finishing up high school and getting ready, for the journey of college and everything like that. But I remember, like, the people I was surrounded around in the group homes, facilities, and independent living, they were floating through life. And for me, I made sure I got up, I dressed my best,
Mhm. Mhm.
I got talked about because I used to dress up, shirt, tie, everything, just to get on the bus to go to school. But for me, I that is what made me feel better and made me feel confident enough to get to where I wanted to be. Like, I didn't have all the answers, didn't
Mhm.
know what I wanted out of life altogether, but I knew that I needed to present myself in a way that not only what I'm thinking in the inside, it's resonating on the outside. So when people look at me, they see that, okay, he on a mission towards something.
Absolutely.
um, that's another one of my little tangents and rants, but I definitely, feel feel that, those values that you have, and they resonate with me and my story, and I'm sure with many of the people that will be listening to this. Um, And I guess, going into my next question, and rolling back to the work and everything like that, I know you've done things like speaking and just sharing your story and some form of right advocating and stuff like that. And you have a book, so you tell us a little bit about that.
Yes, absolutely. So the title of my book is called Every Day as an Interview, which you just mentioned. So every day as an interview is a mindset and a quote that I live by. I came up with this quote back when I was at Michigan State, where, literally kind of like what you just mentioned, where I just always felt as if, I was different, right? I literally would dress up every day, not to a full suit, but a tie, dress shirt. We got people on campus coming to class and PJs and things of that nature. And so
Mhm.
I think that it starts with the mind first. And so the every day as an interview, I love the quote because when you think of an interview, right, it should be the best day of your life, right? From the way you look, from the way you speak, and even just the level of preparation, right? Because when you have an interview, a lot of times what the normal people do, they go online, hey, top 50 interview questions, right? They're prepping themselves. They're ready for, if somebody asks this question, I already rehearsed it, I know what to say. All right. So, and it's also about first impression. And so I said, if I can treat every day as if I have an interview to go to, I will be the best version of myself and other people will see that. And so that's the title of the book. That's kind of a little bit about, the quote, but the book that I wrote is broken up into two parts. So the first part I share about, a lot more in detail about my experiences in foster care, and how they shaped me into the person that I am. And then the second part is I gave some keys, right? Some keys to success, some things that I believe work for me. And my goal was just to share my experiences because I think it's very important to give people your authentic self, right? Like tell them, hey, this is what I went through. And then when you make it out, I think it's also important to give them some tips for success or some best practices, because you can then show that, hey, I was in your shoes and I made it out on the other side. This is what I did. And I think that's very important for someone in a foster care system because all you hear and all you see is the negatives of it, right? You don't necessarily see too many people who make it out. And when I was young, I always knew that I wanted to write a book because I'm like, not everybody goes through foster care. So I wanted to be able to use that, as a platform, to really just be able to give back and just continue to advocate for the foster care system. And also, I do public speaking. And so I saw that as an opportunity. And I minored in sales at Michigan State. I saw this opportunity to, get paid for a speaking event and also, promote my book on the side. So it was always two steps ahead on that
Mm.
aspect. And even when I was at Michigan State, I was selected to be our student commencement speaker. And that opened up a lot of opportunities for me, as far as the speaking engagements. But I made a point to really figure out how can I be a voice for, the foster care system. And that was how I utilized that book, as far as every day as an interview. And even to this day, people know me as the guy who dresses in a suit all the time. And, no matter who sees me, whether, I'm out and about, you will see the best version of myself. So that's a little bit about that.
Thank you, thank you. Um, you shared a lot of great things, a lot of knowledge, a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and I don't feel like it's going on any deaf ears. I just want to say I appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability and your expertise, and being able to share your truth. My next couple questions I have, is kind of something you touched on, just coming around back. Um, Mental health has been a barrier for a lot of our foster brothers and sisters and stuff like that, but also something you've mentioned, the Black community.
Hmm.
And hopefully I don't make nobody mad, but in this day and age, it's inevitable. as a Christian, we say we just pray about it, and it goes away and stuff like that. There's a lot of stigmas. There's a lot of, labels we put on mental health and so forth. What has that looked like for yourself, far as, taking care of self-care for yourself as an individual, but even more so now as, a husband, a father, a person that's over other people in work, and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So what does that look like?
Yeah, so mental health. I'll say for me, I'm the type of person, I deal with a lot inside, and I think that's very common for men. But I don't allow what I'm going through show, right? Like I could be having the worst day in my life or in my head, but when I show up, I can play it off, right? I'm laughing all day, I'm smiling. And so I think that kind of has become, so I'm like numb to everything that's around me, which is crazy to say. So I can kind of just explain as far as my experience, like during COVID, right? So I left Frito-Lay and started my career with Aldi. This was about 3 weeks before COVID happened, right? So
Mhm.
obviously being in a grocery business, it was a lot going on. People wiping out shelves and things like that. And so my journey, because I transitioned jobs, I was more so focused on my job that COVID really, it was just a thing that was going on, but I was more focused, like I need to get out of this training so I can get my district. Like I was in a whole another
Mhm.
field, you know what I mean? Just had my
Mhm.
second kid. So it was a lot going on where I felt, I can't give up. A lot of it because I left Frito-Lay, a great job. And, I was told, hey, you're going to leave here. The grass isn't green on the other side. You're going to lose connection. So I was battling with trying to, uh, prove everybody wrong for, hey, I don't think you should make the transition. So I was battling that. I was battling, being a husband and being a father of two, and being able to, still show up to work and put everything, put my best foot forward. And it's a lot. It's a lot of weight that I carried. And I don't. While it may have probably impacted my mental health, it's really tough to say because it was so many things going on. I just had to be numb to it because I feel that as a man, I feel it when I show my emotions. I feel
Mhm.
as if my wife will now start getting worried. And she's always she wears her emotions all the time, right? And
Mhm.
so I never want her to feel like I'm falling apart because
Mhm.
I tell her all the time, I say, if I'm not concerned, you don't be concerned, right? So I really just kind of just utilize my family and take everything in and just deal with it on my own. But I got to a point where when I was at Aldi, just I didn't feel as if I fit in. So when I started there, I was the only African American male or African American period district manager. It was about 22, 23 of us in the state of Michigan. So I immediately didn't feel like I fit in, like nobody looked like me. And I battled with that every day. Right. And I was working the hardest that I ever had, but just wasn't fitting in, right? And a lot of people don't know this, but I basically resigned from Aldi with nothing lined up because I'm like, I had a kid, it's COVID. I don't feel as if, this is the perfect fit for me. And I said, I didn't take a vacation that year. I'm like, it's a lot going on. I'm gonna just step back and really just focus on, what I want to do because I'm the type of person, if I don't see anything benefit me or value me, I'm gonna remove myself. And then
Mhm.
a lot of people can't do that. So that's what I did. It worked for me. I was able to find a job, that worked out in the end. But as far as the mental health aspect, I think that's something that, for someone like myself, I don't know as far as like I don't think that like therapists would help me because I'm the type of person I wouldn't feel like, not saying I wouldn't feel comfortable sharing it, but
Mhm.
it's just something. I don't know if it's weird, but I like to deal with things internally, I guess, to answer your question.
I feel that. I feel that, and it's fair to say, like, we all deal with our mental health differently. We all have our processes and what we deem the way we want to, work on it. I guess it would be say it's fair to say that you're still growing in that area. You
Mhm.
know, just as anybody else. and just speaking to that story, speaking to your experience of COVID, like, which has affected so many people. And just being able to speak to that, like, look, like, I was here, but I was here. I can resonate. There's been moments in my life where I have been there. I just have a couple more questions for you, and really, my last question, and then the last one will be a statement more so from yourself, is what's next for you on this journey of life?
Yeah, so for me, obviously, what I am really trying to launch is I'm in the process of starting my own business. It's called Sweet Life with SUIT with emphasis on the suit. Obviously, I told you that's kind of a big part of my life, but I'm looking to launch a men's accessories line. Selling like socks, lapel pins, ties, and things of that nature. So that's something that I'm in the process of doing, and I really see that as my opportunity to not only put my degree to use, but it's something that I am passionate about, and I really see myself being able to have success in that field. And I also still trying to work through what that'll look like, but I would like to give back to the foster care system in some sort, whether it's giving someone in foster care a suit after so many sales, or things that nature. I'm still kind of playing with that aspect, but that's something that I'm looking forward to as far as this next journey, as well as just really being able to just continue to, be married, continue to enjoy, live vicariously through my kids, and enjoy all the precious childhood memories that I missed out on. That's really, at this point in my life, my main focus is work and family. And when I have time for myself, whatever that looks like, playing a game or going out with the fellas, I'll do that. But I'm really focused on family. Just given my experience in foster care is very important to me. And I'll drop everything that I need to do to focus on them and make sure they're good. So that's what's next for me at this point in time.
Thank you for that. Wow. It's such an honor to be able to speak to you, and just to really, if I can say, to see another person that shares the same cultural and ethnic
Hmm.
background that has made it out, and somewhat, some of you guys that are listening may be like, "Yo, what you mean? Like, it's so many other things," but a lot of people get caught up in this pipeline. And,
Hmm.
we rarely get moments where I can sit across from you virtually and be able to talk and be like, have these conversations, be able
Hmm.
to share stories, be able to share, each other's testimony, and be okay. Everything isn't okay, but be in a place of safety, peace, and stability. That's a blessing itself, and I look forward to the day where I can see more, African American males make it out of the system successfully and be able to have these conversations. My last question for you is more so a statement from yourself. What advice do you have for young professionals that are trying to get into the corporate world or whichever? And also, what advice do you have for youth in care or alumni out of care?
Yeah, so I'll start with your first question as far as advice for someone looking to get into the workforce. I would say utilize your resources. Every job that I've had, even the network as well, like really build relationships. And because at this point in time, it's really about, not what you know, but it's who you know. And I would recommend, if they don't have already, is to utilize LinkedIn. LinkedIn is really where it's at nowadays. I was fortunate
Definitely.
enough when I started Michigan State, my business professor had all of us make LinkedIn profiles. And that was what I started back in 2011, or no, 2015. So about, no, 2011. I'm sorry. So about 11 years ago, I think I got thousands of connections on LinkedIn. I have a lot of companies reaching out to me as far as job opportunities. So that it would be my recommendation right off the bat is to utilize LinkedIn, network with people who are in your field, talk to people at school, go to career fairs, even at a young age. A lot of companies recruit only juniors and seniors. When I was at State, I went during my freshman year because I said, hey, I want to fail now so that when it's time and it matters, I already know what not to do, right? So be very proactive. I'll say that for as far as working professionals. For those people in care, or how did you phrase that second question?
For the youth that are in care and the alumni out of care.
Got it. For those in care, I would say that you can make it. You have what it takes. I would say really try to always look at the positive. There's always a bright side of things, right? And while it may feel like there's no light at the end of the tunnel, I can honestly say, as someone who was in your shoes, that there is. You just have to literally treat every day as if you have an interview to go to, and I promise you, you will make it out. For those who are on their way out, I think it depends on, what age you're in, because, someone like myself, where I got out, at 12 years old, I was still moldable, right? But I do think that, just even from my experience of talking to someone who may have got out at a later period or their lives or aged out, they may feel, they don't have, the necessary resources at that time, or they don't feel equipped. But I'll say really utilize all of the resources out there. There's a lot of grants, there's a lot of funding that can help get you at least off to a running start. But again, I definitely think that it's all about just taking it day by day, one step at a time. And again, it'll all make sense in the end. I tell myself that I may not know what it looked like, but as a man of faith, I put a lot of faith in God, and I say that I'm the type of person, I don't walk by sight, I always walk by faith. I say that God is never going to give me something that is too big that I wouldn't be able to make it out. So I'll just say utilize that to your advantage. Continue to walk by faith and not by sight. And I definitely think that God see it through. So that's my tidbits, my keys to success, and some uplifting words for those people out there in those situations.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you. It's been a honor to be able to speak with you, and just be able to hear your experience, and just take some stuff in for myself, but also be able to provide a little bit of education,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
a little bit of knowledge, and a success story, what have you, um, for the listeners. Um, so I just want to say I thank you for that, and I look forward to being able to communicate with you, more in the future as you continue on this journey. I definitely don't see this being our last conversation. I know you're destined to continue on this journey for greater things and stuff like that. And I definitely look forward to being able to talk with you when you get, your business up and going, and whatever you figure out to support those foster youth, and just talking about those things and the road there,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah,
Uh,
let's work, man. Like I said, I'm in sales. I'm always gonna never gonna turn opportunity down. But more importantly, I'm definitely looking to figure out, how, if it makes sense, how we can partner as far as supporting one another moving forward. I'm happy to, come across your post on LinkedIn and reach out. It was something in me. I'm like, it sounds like something I need to get involved in. So let me reach out to them and just try to utilize my experiences to share it with someone. And I really hope that who's ever listening was able to take away just some key learnings and some experience, and hope that was able to impact at least one person's life out there, because that's what it's about. So
Definitely, definitely. And one thing I do want to do is, because I know you're, working towards the future and everything like that. You never know, just like you said, you never know who knows who, or whichever who may come across this podcast. So what can they do to connect with you, like on LinkedIn, or reach out to you, to be able to support you, or just be able to connect network wise?
Absolutely. Yep. So my LinkedIn is just going to be my first and last name, Mario, Mario McLean, Mclean, MBA on LinkedIn. My Facebook is Mario McLean. My Instagram is Mario.McLean. And I'm not really active that much on Twitter. So I don't, ain't no need to even get it out. I probably ain't gonna see much going on.
I feel it. I feel it. Well, I appreciate you. You guys that's looking to network and just be able to connect and figure out however way if you want to support Mario. There you go. That you guys have his information. But I just want to thank you guys for listening, and it wouldn't be my show if I didn't do this. Not to be political or anything, but COVID is out there. It is here. It is doing its thing. We got to take care of ourselves. If you're thinking about getting vaccinated for whatever reason you haven't, do your research, make that decision, go do it. If you're not, that's on you. That is your personal choice. That is your right. And I respect it. But also, if you're making those decisions, make sure that you're doing what you have to do to take the right precautions to stay safe, and to stay alive and healthy, to be able to support if you have kids or your family or whichever. Please, and I'm gonna say this, sanitize, wear your mask as you see fit and need to. Please do not just walk around with that sanitized bottle and just be using it all day. Go wash your hands, whichever, and then use that sanitized bottle as needed. But that's my little tip. That's my little tidbit for y'all. I appreciate you guys tuning in. I appreciate the support. Season 1 is coming close to an end. I have some more great guests coming on, to finish us out. But I just, want to say I thank you for all the support that y'all are giving me. This has been Resilient Voices and Beyond. You guys have a good night, good morning, good evening. Just whenever you listening to it, just let it be great. And I see you guys later.